Okay, so how do you find the next SMCI, the next Tesla, or the next Nvidia? Well, as I see it, you got a couple of choices. You could put your money with a hedge fund, and that would be, what is it, 2 and 20? You pay 2% of your assets under management and then give them 20% of your gains. That's a way to go about it. Another way to go about it is to put your money with Goldman Sachs, and they have 46,300 employees working at it on a day-to-day basis. So they have a similar payout program. Or you could do what I do, and that is do your research. That is, spend 8 hours a day digging into a select group of stocks that you recognize are going to be players in the future, and then find the ones who are just creeping up unnoticed and find out how they're growing their business. And how do you grow a business? Well, the first thing you do is increase revenues. And once you hit scale, you can then start investing more into the business and growing it. So the key is to find the revenues. And if you can find the revenues, such as going back and finding where did SMCI start really piling those revenues up, and where could I have bought in? Where was it at Tesla? I could see those revenues growing and knowing that the earnings would come later and the price would go up. Where was that? How could I do that? Well, you do research. You go and you get the data. You learn how to gather the data. Then you learn how to read the data, interpret the data, and you find the next 10 bagger, 20 bagger. What was it? SMCI, that's 24. That's a 24 bagger. Well, I found 3 more. Okay, but first what I want to do is teach you how you can do it so that you can go and find the next SMCI and make 750% in 1 year. It's going to happen again, and I know where they're at. So let me show you exactly what I'm doing, and then you can copy it and spend 8 hours a day doing what I do. Sound like a deal? Or you could join the tribe. Let's get into it.
Best of Us Investors presents Kerry Griegmeyer.
How do you find the next SMCI, Tesla, and Nvidia? Well, I think you have to do it the same way that Goldman Sachs does it, or JP Morgan, or any other. You have to analyze the data. And that's what I'm doing here. I've been working on this for a number of years, and what I'm showing you here is the 37 stocks that I follow in the BUS 12 and BUS 13 portfolios, and I tracked their data. This top one is Apple. I've hidden their tickers, basically because I want to protect the work that I have done, but I want you to understand how, if you want to do it, you can do it as well. But what I'm showing you here is Apple's history, and this is their earnings per share going back to 2009 through their projections of 2026. And then I show the percentage change. Then I show you here their price change as to how much the price of the stock has gone up on a year-to-year basis. That's as you see right now, they're down about 10%. Then down here, what I'm showing you is their revenue. And as you can see, revenue is very different from that of earnings per share. And what you see is, what I'm going to show you is large stocks kind of find a comfort zone. This is an anomaly that a large stock would have a 33% increase in revenue. They're more around the 8, the 6, and such. So let's start with SMCI and see if there's a clue that we could have picked up on and said, hey, we should have bought it back then. And again, it's the same thing. This is their earnings per share, and you can see they had a bump here from 48 cents to $1.16, and it was reflected in their stock price. But what I really want to draw your attention to is their revenues, because as I explained, the first thing that happens in a company that makes it extremely profitable is an increase in revenue. And if you looked at this back in 2015, you would have seen a 33% increase in revenue. You might not have acted on that. And then in 11, then another 35. 105. But really where your attention would have been caught would be back here in 2022 when it went to 46, then 36, then 105, and now is projecting 41 in 2015. Well, let's say that you were astute to these numbers and you watch these kind of numbers and you bought SMCI back in 2022. You would have bought it for somewhere around $38 a share. Today, it's selling for $914. Thus, it's got a 24x. So that's probably... And if you didn't buy it in 2024, you would have then or 2022, you would have said, wow, in 2023, that's when I got to buy it. And you'd still been buying it for probably under $100. So my point is, if you want to find another SMCI, build an analysis like this and track their earnings per share, track their stock price. But the first indicator, the first clue is going to be revenue, because there's only three ways to increase revenue. That is to expand your TAM, your total addressable market. Number two is to raise your prices so that your revenue goes up. And then number three, invent a new product. And that's kind of what happened to SMCI. They got involved with Nvidia. They created a new product, a GPU. Artificial intelligence came along and it exploded. So that's SMCI. Now let's put the same logic to Tesla. And here again, you see a company that's kind of churning along. And again, let's focus on their revenue. And as you can see, they started out pretty strong and at 27, but then 73 and 68. So if you had bought Tesla back here in 2018, because you saw a new company whose revenue was growing and growing exponentially, you would have bought Tesla for $22 a share. It's currently at 156, and we know it's down substantially. So what I'm pointing at is if you'll do the research and if you'll put together the research, you can find another SMCI or another Tesla. Now let's look at Nvidia. This is Nvidia here, again in the red. And again, earnings per share going along, had a big bump, but it was followed by a big crash. But where you really saw that, hey, this is a potential stock was probably in 2017 when they had a 38% increase in revenue, followed by a 41, followed by a 21. Then we got into the pandemic, and then we got a 53, a 61. And this is where probably you would have bought Nvidia back in 2018. And after these two bumps, and you would have bought Nvidia for $57 a share. So it's now at 600 or 869. That's how you spot the next SMCI, the next Tesla, and the next Nvidia. Are there any others like that in the world right now? Well, I have found several, and I'd like to kind of show you their pattern. Again, they're new stocks. They're the Teslas. They're the Nvidias back in the early days. And this is one here, and I'm not going to share the name with it because, again, I'm not giving my work away. Here is a stock who is not doing so well. They had they had losses of $5.56, followed by $6.59. Had a bump and went up to 82 but this is the number you got to focus on. Their revenue is growing by 69, by 63, by 47, by 45, projected in 2024 of 54 and then 48. This is a stock that's going to explode. This is another Nvidia, and it's not an expensive stock. But I researched and I found it, and it's a big winner. Right below it is another one. Here's another one going along, and its revenues actually went down in 2020, 10%. But look at that. up 179%, followed by up 136, followed by 99, followed projecting in 2024, 47, 43, 40. Again, Apple and Microsoft, they're down in the teens at best, sometimes single digits. This is another Nvidia. I'll swear it, and the world doesn't know about it because you don't do this kind of research. Now, someone does, and that's Goldman Sachs, and that's JP Morgan. They know about this, and right now they're building a position in it. Let me show you another one. This is another one that I found, and again, relatively new stock. Its earnings per share are going up, but they're going up on a negative basis. They just hit a positive here, okay? But look down here at their revenue from 8 billion to 55. No, these are millions. From 8 million to 55 million to 149 million to 307 million and project it at 504 million. That's how they're growing. And that's how I came upon them and said, I've got to own this because it's going to give me a 1,080, almost a 1,100 rate of return over the next 2 years. How do you find these? You do research. You spend hours in front of your computer and you find, and then you digest it and say, I have to own this. This one happens to be about a $4 stock. Yeah. I am quite confident it's a 20 banger within the next 3 years. Okay? That's how I do research. That's how, if you want to win at this game, you've got to do what Goldman Sachs does. And this is what they do. But again, they have 46,300 employees and they manage $2 trillion worth of assets. How do they make that grow? How do they get it to 3 trillion? They find these stocks. They find the next SMCI. They find the next Tesla. They find the next Nvidia. Well, I'm sorry to tell you, Goldman Sachs, I found them too. And I'm going to continue to find them. And I'm going to hire someone, and that's going to be their job. They're going to work for Best of Us investors. They're going to be a part of our tribe, and their job is going to be, go find me another one. I've got 3 of them, and I've got a clue of about a 4th one, but I know who the next SMCI, Tesla, and Nvidia are, and I'm keeping it to myself, except with my tribe members. For those people who are saying, Kerry, we appreciate your work. We appreciate that you spend 8 hours a day doing this for us. Kerry, you're as good as a hedge fund, but we aren't going to pay you 20% of our gains and a 2% override. No, it's not going to be 2 and 20. No, Kerry, we'll pay you $60 a month to tell us who the next SMCI is, who the next Tesla, and who the next Nvidia. And Kerry, you do the work, and you go hire some other people to do the work, and we'll reap the benefits, and we're willing to pay you for your efforts. Okay? How do you do that? You get on the bus. Okay? You say, this guy's got it figured out, and I want to be a part of it. I want to be in his tribe, and I'm willing to pay him for what he does. If you aren't, okay, you go and do it your way. I'll talk to you more about this in the future. In fact, what I'll do is I'll promise you, the next time I find the next SMCI, which is going to give me 750% return on my investment in 1 year, I'll let you know who it is. And probably not. No, talk to you again in the near future.